Will Horizon Zero Dawn be a success? So I'll
Yes.
let you go ahead and sort of set the premise here.
Yeah, because of course this is the upcoming new IP from Guerrilla Games. We know them from Killzone. And they're now releasing this open world RPG in a futuristic world, but it's like kind of prehistoric with, yeah, you are a girl, the ally that is using like bow and arrow to kill these dinosaurs, but the dinosaurs are machines. And of course there's way more, yeah, going on in this world. And if I look at my personal opinion, it looks super interesting. I want to explore this world, but I looked at a NeoGAF forum, and they were discussing what games will flop in 2017. And of course, we have the Agents of Mayhem game, and that's the game from Volition, the creators of Saints Row. We don't hear anything about that, and I don't think that that's like a fall 2017 game. So they better start talking about that because it's kind of quiet. Anyway, they were also talking. Some people thought that Horizon Zero Dawn wasn't going to be a success, and then we're talking about a success like commercially, but also critically. Of course, the game will release on February 28 in the US and March 1st in Europe, and that's like a time frame where a lot of other PlayStation 4 exclusives are released as well. I'm looking at the Order 1886. Did you play that game?
Yeah, I played The Order and I beat it actually.
Yeah,
I was very
it's pretty
disappointed at the end.
Yeah, it was pretty short actually as well.
Well, it wasn't the shortness, it's just that you literally play a ginormous flashback and then the last part of the game is like an hour long and it just cuts to a really cool cinematic and you're like, wow, this game is never going to get a sequel probably.
Yeah, it's also like I had the feeling that it like quit like halfway through the game. So
Yep.
yeah, when I'm going to get the second part, well, probably not. And that was like all the game had going for it was the story. So that was like a weird game, but still it sold really well. It made Sony some money, and that was obviously as well because it was like one of the first real PS4 exclusives. We also have Infamous Second Son, also a game that I like playing, but not like as good as the previous Infamous games. Also sold pretty well. They all came out in that February-March timeframe. Then we have some interesting points. So before we go, we're going to discuss if we think Horizon will be a success. It's reviewing well internally, and then you probably think, how can you know that? Well, we of course know Shinobi 602 over on NeoGAF. He's an insider, and he discusses that he hears that the mock reviews. So before a game releases, there will be some sort of like people that will review the game internally so that they get a feeling of where the game will go Metacritic wise. So obviously before they send it out to the press, they want to know where they stand. Do we need to push this really hard? So this is super interesting because he says that it's doing really well. It's yeah, so really well. I think that's around the 8 till 9. So you could say that critically it could be a success. Then of course we have Guerrilla Games, and they made some pretty good games. The previous game was Killzone Shadowfall, launch game for PS4. 73, they had Killzone 2 of course on PS3, 91 on Metacritic, pretty high. Killzone 3 had an 83 on Metacritic. So what do you think? Will Horizon Zero Dawn be a success?
I'm not so sure, and that's the sad thing, right? I mean, I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, this game, it looks really flashy in trailers, but I could see it becoming extremely shallow a couple hours in. And the reason why I say that is because when you have a developer like Guerrilla Games who developed Killzone, which is basically like a Call of Duty or Battlefield with just a different theme, and that may piss some people off, but it's an on-rail shooter and they don't really have to do too much with it. It's basically like a Michael Bay film. You watch it, it's entertaining, and then you realize what it is. And so with Horizon, I worry that that's the same case, where it's going to be super flashy for the first few hours. I'm like, wow, this is really cool, climbing on dinosaurs or whatever, mechanical dinosaurs, and going to their cores and striking them down, or using my tools to attack them. But then you might realize later on that, oh, it's not really that complex as it seemed at the beginning. There's only really certain ways to tackle them, and the story is kind of meh. And I think that the game could easily fall under that category, and because of that, I don't think it's gonna lose money. I mean, it definitely won't. I think it's gonna be a very big commercial success, but I think the overwhelming majority of people might come away with it at the end and think, it was an entertaining game, but it's definitely not Game of the Year material.
Yeah, and yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from. It's of course like a huge step from a like on rails linear shooter to an open world RPG. They of course hired someone from Fallout New Vegas to write the game, so that's like that's a good thing, of course. But yeah, it's like interesting. It's new ground for them. They've been working on this game for a very long time though. They of course delayed it. It was supposed to hit in 2016. Now a few months later, but yeah, they've been working on this game even before Killzone was released. So it's I think that commercially it will probably be fine, and you can also like track this a little bit by going, for example, we have this you probably have this as well, the vidIQ, like some sort of plugin for
video analytics tracker. Yeah.
Yep. So video analytics tracker, and if you then put down like HOrizon, you see what the search volume is and how much people are creating content about it, and the search volume is like 100. So there are a ton of people interested in this game, watching this footage. And also if you go to a random HOrizon Zero Dawn video on the PlayStation YouTube channel, it's like in the millions, the views. So that also like shows you a little bit. For example, if you go to a Gravity Rush video, and Gravity Rush is releasing soon, it will probably not be like a million seller, and you see that in the views as well. 100,000 views, 200,000 views, so not super huge if you compare it, for example, to HOrizon. So I think that is also something. I think that the fact that, again, this is a new PS4 exclusive, that also really helps. And if we looked at the holiday of 2016, we saw that not a lot of sequels did really well, and that could also be the case that people are interested in new IP, and this is really something that, of course, the gameplay might be familiar, the RPG elements, the world map, the skills, but the world is something totally new, and you want to explore something new. A thing that I think could also hold it back a little bit, and this is of course sad, this is really sad, but the female protagonist could also like be I always look at Mafia 3 and see like this super awesome cool guy shooting up people, and that's cool. Like persons that buy like 2-3 games a year look at Mafia and think, okay, that's a cool game. Well, if they look at HOrizon, they might not feel like they're attached to this character as soon as they see the game. So that could also hold it back.
I don't know. I think you're overestimating that, because I mean,
okay.
I think to assume that
I
you're
hope
assuming,
I am, obviously.
Yeah, I think if you're assuming that, you're assuming that a majority of gamers are basically sexist. Not maybe like really sexist, but sexist enough to not really become attached to a character that isn't their gender, right? And
No,
I don't feel that's a thing really in gaming. Maybe if it was done a lot, I think we might see a trend like that. But when it really comes down to it, that never stopped people from loving Lara Croft. That never stopped people from buying those games and really loving that character. And when it really comes down to it, man, as long as she's written well, and as long as the character is compelling, I think everyone is gonna love her. It's just, that's what it really comes down to. I mean, the reason why people love the Mafia 3 character is because he was so well written. It's just we didn't get a lot of that unless you went through all the padding, right? So yeah, I don't think that's really gonna be a thing. So
it's just, if you look at like for example the GTA games, why is there no female character in like the cast there? It could be, right, and they're still like not doing it. I do think that there is some sort of marketing thing going on there.
There's certainly a fear, I think, among developers that may want to diversify their cast, that feel that might also alienate specific audiences that they feel are their majority, right? And that's why I said if it's overdone, I think that would cause an issue. I don't think it should, but unfortunately we live in a world where Tracer becoming basically coming out as being gay in the most innocent way possible, and like 2 panes of a comic series is a huge issue, right? So it's very possible, but that could be a factor. I just don't think it will, because she's a badass in every single trailer, and I think that will cause people, just like they fell in love with Tracer, even though they may have their differences with how Blizzard portrayed the character within the lore. I think people just will look at the way the character holds themselves up as a person, and also how the lore is written around them, and love the game for that, rather than them being able to see themselves in a character in terms of like their face and like their gender and everything like that. Because that is an important piece. I've heard numerous people say before, females even, that's basically, it's like, oh well, I want to play that game because it's a male leading cast, and they have the worst end of the stick, where that's a predominant thing, where most lead characters are male. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too far into it, but I don't think that it will be an issue.
Okay, and I hope, of course, that you're right. I don't think that I don't agree, of course, with people like thinking that, but I could just like see someone walk into the to the store, and looking at shooters that he's playing, like Call of Duty, and maybe he picks up a sports game every year, seeing HOrizon and thinking, okay, the world looks cool, but I simply don't enjoy playing a female or something like that. Anyway, to round out this topic, will HOrizon be a success? You think that commercially it will totally be a success? I totally agree with you, right?
I think that it will be a success in terms of it profiting. I do worry about how much it will profit, though. So
I can totally see that. I hope that Sony sets realistic expectations, but it's also like the timing. I mean, there are no other games coming out around that time.
And I applaud their marketing for that, because if they would have released it around when they were originally planning to release it, I think it definitely would have struggled.
It probably never. It was probably like for the greatness awaits like marketing, because Sony has never released like a AAA game in the holidays since the launch of the PS4. So
I'm kind of certain too. Guerrilla Games kind of was like, yo, Sony, look at Killzone Shadowfall on the PS4. Well, look what happened when we rushed that out the door. It got a 73 on Metacritic, or they probably used different statistics than that. But I mean, obviously, nothing was wrong with just all the other games or whatever, that when you rush something out the door to hit a certain point in a production cycle, so like say the launch of the PS4, that can cause you to cut corners a lot more, and not really put as much care into a game as with, for example, this game, where they're like, okay, well, you have the time, or delay it if you need to, just let us advertise it as it's coming, and we'll delay it and let you delay it as long as you need, as long as you don't delay it at an unrealistic point. But they definitely didn't, and I'm fairly certain there's gonna be no more delays. I mean, it would be kind of ridiculous if there is at this point. So.
I totally believe that it's coming out like at this day. They're like they seem pretty certain. And what's also interesting is that I mean, there is like a little bit of a hype. I mean, it's one of the first big titles coming out this year, and the Sony marketing hasn't even begun. So I think that around the end of February you will see ads of HOrizon everywhere, and they will totally push this game. And I really hope that what I think will happen, maybe it will get like an 8 on Metacritic or something like that. So a great score, but there's like way more potential, and then the sequel may be released 2 years later, because they already have the framework, engine, everything, and then they can really build on that. I can totally see that happening. Anyway, I'm totally excited. We will maybe cover the sales if there's something interesting going on around that time.